Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the San Francisco Chronicle newsroom. I'm Mike Lerseth, assistant sports editor, and we are here to do our mock first-round draft, NFL draft. Joining me are the two men who bring you the best coverage in the Bay Area. On my far left, you have Eric Branch, who covers the 49ers, and right next to me is Matt Kawahara, who covers the Raiders. Today, we're going to ask Matt and Eric to take off their beat writer hats and put on their front office fedoras and pick the perfect player for each of the 29 teams that have a pick in the first round. There are three teams, the Texans, Chiefs, and Rams, that do not have a pick in the opening round, while the Browns, the Bills, and the Patriots each have two. We will alternate the picks. Eric won the toss, is picking number one, and he'll stick with the odd number picks. Matt gets number two and all the even numbered picks. In the draft, of course, the idea is that the worst teams from the last year get the choice at the best players coming out of college the next year. The idea is they make the team better, bring them into contention, with the ultimate goal being the Super Bowl. Of the 32 teams in the league right now, 28 have actually played in the Super Bowl. Among the four that have not, we'll give a little bit of a pass to Houston, which was an expansion team, I believe, in 95. Or no, that was the Jacksonville. Jacksonville is 95, and Houston is also an expansion team. The third team is Detroit, which has never been to a Super Bowl. It's a long-established team, but at least they've been relatively relevant in the last few years with 3 playoff berths in the last 7 seasons. And then there's Cleveland. Poor Cleveland. Team has never been to the Super Bowl and hasn't been to the playoffs since 2002, and thanks to the Bills making the playoffs last year, now owns the longest drought without reaching the playoffs in the NFL. They're 30 years removed from their heyday, which John Elway destroyed, and that's the good news. The Browns were 0-16 last year and are 1-31 in the past 2 seasons. In Week 5 of 2015, Cleveland beat Baltimore in overtime and improved to 2-3. Since then, the Browns have gone 2-41. With that in mind, with the first pick of our draft, Eric Branch and the Cleveland Browns select.
Thank you, Mike, for the dramatic build-up.
There you go.
Appreciate it. Let me cut to the chase. I gave the Cleveland Browns USC quarterback Sam Darnold. I want to add just
the second pick in the draft, once upon a time, a great NFL team, the New York Giants. They were 3-13 last season, which is the most losses the franchise has had. And this is a franchise that began playing in 1925. Eli Manning apparently gets another year with Webb Davis from Cal, or Davis Webb, sorry, in the background, waiting for his shot. Manning's favorite target, of course, is Odell Beckham Jr. He had 3 consecutive 1,300-yard seasons, ended last year, and he broke his ankle. One bright spot was Orleans Darkwa. Came out of nowhere, 750 yards and 5 TDs. But is he the long-term answer? Matt, what say you?
No.
No.
For this case, no. I would say the Giants could definitely they could very well use this pick to get a future replacement or the heir apparent for Eli Manning, but I'm saying they're going to use the second pick on Saquon Barkley, the running back from Penn State, who they go with him at number 2.
Yeah.
Come in and help immediately.
That's terrible news for Orleans Darkwa.
Yes, the Darkwa era might be over already.
For Orleans,
Yeah, Barkley was a beast at the combine. I was watching some video of him yesterday. It was a 4.40 for somebody who's 233 pounds, had the vertical of 41 inches, and he's able to catch the ball out of the backfield as well. We're going to stay in New York. It was a bad year for the Big Apple. The Jets this year are celebrating their 50th anniversary of their one and only Super Bowl, which was memorable because it was when Joe Namath predicted the victory. To build up momentum for that notable anniversary, they went 5-11 the last 2 seasons. Josh McCown was decent, had 2,900 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 picks. But there's depth at that position. With depth at that position this year in the draft, that might not be. Eric, your choice at number 3 with the Jets.
Well, a lot of the recent pre-draft chatter has talked about the Jets loving Baker Mayfield, but I'm so shrewd and I've been doing this so long that I'm going away from that because if it's that obvious, it can't be true.
Okay.
So the Jets are going to take UCLA quarterback Josh Rosen.
All right, so 2 Pac-12 quarterbacks in the first 3 picks. All right, and I will point out that Rosen, we had this as our names and face a couple of
Enjoy that. So the tabloids could have a field day.
Alert the headline writers.
Yeah.
Good news. All right. Number 4, surprisingly enough, is Cleveland again. This is the pick the Browns got from Houston last year when they let the Texans move up, and the Texans drafted Deshaun Watson in this spot. Great move, Cleveland. So with the number 4 pick, the second pick for the Browns, Matt?
The Browns have their quarterback already, so here they go defense with defensive end Bradley Chubb, who last year they used the number 1 overall pick on Myles Garrett, another defensive end. Here they can pair Chubb and Garrett together and maybe make some opposing quarterbacks a little uncomfortable next year.
Very good. And I guess this is the point where we have a moment of silence for Mr. Chubb, whose pro career has apparently come to an end.
Right. The Factory of Sadness welcomes
The Factory of Sadness welcomes
really
him. Another.
Cleveland here.
Sorry, Cleveland. At number 5, Denver. Remarkable to think that 26 months ago, I know Eric was at the game. I was in the office kind of organizing the coverage, but 26 months ago at Levi Stadium, we watched as Peyton Manning beat the Panthers in Super Bowl 50, and Peyton walked off the field into retirement as a Super Bowl champion. Now he's shilling pizzas and singing off-tune insurance songs. And the Broncos are trying to get back on track after losing 18 out of 32 games the last 2 years. They appear to have some stability. This might test Eric. Some stability at quarterback, having signed Case Keenum. But there were roster shakeups. They let Aqib Talib go. They traded him to the Rams. And just last week, they cut Cal alum and Vallejo native. I got to get my Vallejo in there. C.J. Anderson with the number 5 pick, Eric. Denver selects.
Well, this is not meant as any disrespect to Case Keenum, who's a lovely man and just had a wonderful season. And I'm sure he'll be a nice placeholder because the Denver Broncos are going to select quarterback from Wyoming, Josh Allen.
Wow. Right.
If I may just say a word here, I assume, since I just mocked them to the Broncos, John Elway knows more about the quarterback position than I do.
A little bit.
Perhaps. But I'm going to call my shot. I don't see Josh Allen making it. He had a 56% completion percentage against the likes of San Jose State and Utah State. No disrespect to those colleges or the alums who may be watching. But, I think because he looks the part and he has a huge arm, everyone just assumes, we can fix it. It's his platform. He's not, well, if he hasn't fixed it yet, I'm not sure that's going to happen. So along with mocking him to the Broncos, my second prediction is this will not end well.
Okay. And you said huge arm. He also has huge hands, which the Browns were infatuated with. He had the largest hands of any quarterback, which I guess the theory goes that if you have the big hands, cold weather, it's easier to hold on to the ball and throw the ball. And, of course, Denver, mile high, he's going to get a lot of opportunity to do that.
My Alex Smith fans out there can attest. He has very small hands, and he's done just fine, thank you.
And Jared Goff, remember it was the knock on Jared Goff a couple of years ago who didn't do too badly. At number 6 are the Indianapolis Colts. Looking over what they did last year and trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses, it dawned on me they don't need one thing, they need everything. They were 31st in total offense, 30th in scoring offense, 30th in total defense, 30th in scoring defense. The best thing they did statistically was run the ball. They were 22nd in the league, but in the offseason they chose not to re-sign former 49er Frank Gore, who last year became the 5th leading rusher in the history of the NFL. So with all that in mind, Matt, what do you say?
With all that in mind, they definitely need help. And I should say that the Colts, being one of the few teams in the top 10 who are one of the teams in the top 10 who don't need a quarterback, are one of the teams who could entertain offers to trade down, as well as maybe the Browns at number 4, assuming they do take their quarterback at 1. They could entertain offers to trade down as well. But for the sake of this, we're going Indianapolis takes linebacker Roquan Smith, disappointing many 49ers and Raiders fans who would both like to see Smith play for their teams next year. But he seems to be, as far as the top 2 interior linebackers, Smith and Tremaine Edmonds from Virginia Tech, a lot of the analysts seem to like Smith, who's maybe a little undersized, but he is drawing comparisons to Ray Lewis and Derek Brooks, a couple of Hall of Famers, and Indianapolis likes the look of him in the middle of their defense.
Does that surprise you, Eric? Because I believe you wrote about Roquan and the 49ers last week.
I hate to say this, but I've been doing this long enough. Nothing surprises me in the mock draft world, at all. Roquan Smith, I could see that. He seems to be like one of those safe guys. You can say, we're going to pencil in for multiple Pro Bowls, etc. Hell of a pick.
Nice job. Well done. Well done.
I tried.
All right. Number 7, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This will be Jameis Winston's 4th year with the Bucs as their quarterback. He's yet to lead him into the playoffs, and as a starter is 18 and 27. It's not entirely his fault. Bucs were 18th in scoring last year, but he's probably going to be called upon to do even more this year. The Bucs let go of Doug Martin, who is the 4th leading rusher in franchise history. He signed with the Raiders, I believe. And they've attempted to address their biggest issue, which was defense, by signing Jason Pierre-Paul. Tampa Bay was last in passing defense a year ago and had the fewest sacks in the league with only 22. With the number 7 pick, Eric.
They're going to give a little help to Jameis as far as protection and whoever the heck's going to be running the ball for them with Notre Dame guard Quentin Nelson. And all those people that are watching us from Tampa Bay, here's an evaluator's comment here on Quentin Nelson. He's built like a bank safe with wide hips, a broad chest, and powerful limbs. So congratulations. Yeah. That's exciting.
I'd say wake up the echoes for Notre Dame and the Bucs, but there aren't really any echoes of success in Tampa Bay aside from the one that Gruden took them to.
Sean Gruden.
Number 8, Chicago Bears. The Bears last year got out ahead of the quarterback overflow that seems to be hitting the league this year, and they took Mitch Trubisky. He struggled, and the Bears were 30th in total offense a year ago. The defense, which in 2013 and 14 was ranked 30th, improved to number 10. So you've got some bright spots there for the Bears. And first-time head coach Matt Nagy yesterday turned 40. So can he make it a happy birthday? Who's his first pick?
I think the Bears would really have liked if Quentin Nelson had not been picked by the Buccaneers at number 7, but they're going to go actually on the defensive end and get a guy to start opposite of cornerback Kyle Fuller, who they recently signed. I think the transition tag.
Oh, look at
going,
you.
Very good.
Very good Bears knowledge.
Well, I'm going to say it. They're going to do a cornerback Denzel Ward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Very good. At number 9, we're going to expand a little bit here because the next 2 picks are the Bay Area teams. First up are the 49ers. As most folks know, it wasn't scheduled this way, but the 49ers played 2 seasons last year. They went 1-10 with C.J. Beathard and Brian Hoyer running quarterback. And then from the East, a star appeared, St. James of Garoppolo. Came in 5-0. People are going crazy. Can't put enough pictures of him online or in the paper, we're told. And those 5 wins earned him a $137.5 million contract and a burden of expectations just as big. In addition to that, they've added Richard Sherman. They've added Jerick McKinnon. They've added Weston Richburg, Jonathan Cooper, Corey Toomer, Jeremy Ataochu. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I probably am not. But then all the offseason giddiness and the hope obviously is tempered by what's going on with linebacker Reuben Foster, who's facing several felony charges after an incident with his girlfriend a couple of months ago. With all that in mind, Eric, what do the 49ers do with this pick?
Well, first of all, I believe it's a Tauchu. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll tout you. I'll make a note.
All right. So the 49ers have their quarterback, and what they really need, they have no pass rush. So they need someone to hit the other team's quarterback. They really don't have that. Apologies to a Tauchu, who is an edge rusher. But this guy, sometimes you say go BPA. For those new to this, that's best player available. And the Niners are actually not going to do that. They're going to go and address their biggest need, and they are going to get Boston College edge rusher Harold Landry.
Nice.
Contract, or they franchise him. So they really don't have the option probably of getting an impactful edge rusher in free agency. They have to do it in the draft. This draft is not known for having a whole bunch of quality edge rushers. So they have to do it fairly quickly. We're not doing trades in this, but you could certainly see the Niners trading down. I think Landry or Marcus Davenport from Texas San Antonio will be available. But I'm going with Harold Landry. Would have taken Roquan Smith, but Matt swooped him up.
Do you see Landry possibly in the lineup week 1, starting lineup?
Well, here's his competition. Cassius Marsh, Eli Harold. Again, no disrespect, but these are just kind of, probably just more guys. I mean, if you draft Harold Landry at number 9, you expect him to be a week 1 starter. He better be.
Yeah. And the 49ers last year had 30 sacks.
That's not
only
right.
30.
Right.
26th in the league. And as an aside, how much does the Reuben Foster situation affect what they might do?
Well, I think it affects it in that I think Roquan Smith and Tremaine Edmonds are very real possibilities. Here in the mock draft, we talked to Tremaine Edmonds, told him we had a lot of respect for him, but it just wasn't in the cards. We need to go with Harold. But I do think it's something they will address, among their first picks. But again, for the reasons specified, we're going to address our pass rush.
Very good. Very good.
Is that a tough conversation with?
Tremaine is just what a neat, wonderful kid, and he took it extremely, extremely well. He
Good.
understands. It's not where you're drafted,
He's got a bright future. He's years ahead of him at playing.
Just 19.
Yeah.
We'll get to Tremaine.
There we go. All right.
Sure.
All right. At number 10, we move. I used to be able to say across the bay. Now it's up the bay for the Raiders. And a lot of you will remember that at this time last season, there was a lot of talk about the Raiders being among the short list of Super Bowl contenders. Quarterback Derek Carr was going to be back after having broken his leg in the next to last game the previous year. Marshawn Lynch had joined the team, come out of retirement. Khalil Mack was still Khalil Mack, and then it all fell apart. Team wins its first 2 games, scores 71 points in the process, and then they absolutely imploded. They had 10 games down the stretch where they failed to score more than 17, and they lost all 10. 12-4 season became 6-10. Lynch did all right, 890 yards and 5 touchdowns, but in 3 of 5 games during an early season stretch, he had less than 20, and of course he had a suspension in 1 game. Amari Cooper, great guy, great hands, great player, didn't drop, sorry. They were incomplete. Half of the 96 passes thrown his way were incomplete.
He dropped a few.
He dropped a few, yes, exactly. Mack remained Mack, 10.5 sacks, but the rest of the Raiders combined for only 20.5, and there are gaping holes and the secondary, which last season they had 5 more interceptions than the 3 of us did. 5. What do you do?
I guess I'm going the opposite strategy of Eric here, because the Raiders do have needs at middle linebacker, where Navarro Bowman is still a free agent. They need a stronger interior pass rush so that they can maybe free up Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin off the edge. They could maybe use an offensive tackle, because Donald Penn is getting up there and he's not expected to play past 2019, and they released their starting right tackle from last season, Marshall Newhouse. But all that said, I'm going to say that because he's still on the board, the Raiders are not able to pass up on Minkah Fitzpatrick, the defensive back. Free agency and some of their recent draft picks, but there's nobody in there who's extremely proven. Also, John Gruden just hired Derek Ansley, who was Fitzpatrick's position coach at Alabama in recent years, to be the Raiders' new secondary coach. So there's that tie, and I'm sure if Fitzpatrick is on the board still at 10, Ansley is pounding the table to get him to Oakland.
Very good. The Alabama connection goes into Oakland.
So that's where they go.
All right. Number 11, the Miami Dolphins, who went 10-6 and reached the playoffs as a wild card team in 2016. But then last year, Ryan Tannehill goes down with an injury, gone for most of the season. They go to 6-10. The offense drops to 28th in the league. The defense goes to 29. Their one big defensive name, Ndamukong Suh, they let go last month. I apologize. Frank Gore at least gets a homecoming. San Francisco to Indy to Miami, back in Florida where he went to school and grew up. He'll probably take the place of Jay Ajayi, but is that enough? What do you do there, Eric?
Well, Adam Gase all of a sudden is kind of, possibly coaching for his job, and I think he's not feeling secure about Ryan Tannehill saving his job for him. Okay. So he also is going to address his quarterback position with Oklahoma quarterback Baker Mayfield.
You love you some quarterbacks.
Right. There we go. I think Mayfield, as we know, is a bit of a controversial figure, somewhat of a lightning rod, but I think the worries about his height could be overblown, but maybe it remains to be seen if he has the intangibles to pull this off. He does have an alcohol-related college arrest on his record, so I think putting him in South Beach is a recipe for success.
Nothing goes wrong in South Beach, right?
No, he'll be fine.
No, he'll be fine. All right. Next up, number 12, the Buffalo Bills, who, as I mentioned earlier, finally snapped their playoff drought by getting in on the last day of the season. They are the only team among the top 15 draft picks, teams picking in the top 15, that has a winning record. But they let Tyrod Taylor go. They have only 2 quarterbacks on the roster right now. The biggest name is A.J. McCarron, Alabama, right?
Yeah, there you go.
LaShawn McCoy was the team's leading rusher and receiver, but he turns 30 this year. Running backs and 30 is often not a comfortable mix. So quarterback, running back, alignment to protect him. Where do you go?
I'm going to say they don't see A.J. McCarron as the long-term solution at quarterback.
What?
Yeah, no. I mean, for the sake of this exercise.
Right, sure.
I'm going to finally get a chance to take one of the quarterbacks. I'm going to say that they go with the 2016 Heisman Award winner, Lamar Jackson.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
Yeah, there was obviously the controversy about asking Lamar Jackson to work out as a wide receiver at the combine, do drills like that. A lot of people see him as, some analysts anyway, see him as potentially maybe being either the most dynamic or the most productive quarterback from this class a few years down the road. We'll say Buffalo gambles. They stay put at 12. They get their quarterback, and maybe it'll work out.
And they need patience.
Also that.
Probably a couple of years.
Could probably sit the first year, maybe, or at least challenge for that starting job.
All right.
Right. Well, it's going to be tough with A.J. McCarron.
A.J. McCarron has that lockdown.
Not easily done away with. Right. Lucky number 13 is Washington. The 2 oldest players for Washington our former 49er teammates who will have to play well if they're going to go back to the postseason. That's Alex Smith, moved over from the Chiefs.
Small-handed.
And small-handed Alex Smith, yes, right, exactly. And tight end Vernon Davis, who I would assume his tight end is not small-handed. The bigger problem, however, is on the defensive side. Washington, 21st in total defense last year, 2 spots ahead of the Raiders and 2 spots of the 49ers if you need some local flavor on that, and allowed 30 or more points in 7 games, all of which they lost. You know, it's not easy to win when you give up 30. What do they do at 13, Eric?
Nice segue, Mike. I appreciate it because the Washington Redskins are going to address their defensive front. And talked about the people watching in Tampa Bay. We actually might have some people from Milpitas who are going to enjoy this very, very much.
Hello, Milpitas.
The pride of Milpitas High, Washington defensive tackle, Vita Vea is going. And he grew up as a 49er fan. And so he'll be very excited to see his position coach, former 49ers head coach Jimmy Tomsula.
Wow. Catawba College's own, is that right?
Yeah.
No.
And if I may, I'm embarrassed to say this or promote this, but I did write a story about
a very good one. Very entertaining one, yes.
So go to in today's Chronicle. You can catch that online, sfchronicle.com. I do detail what Vita Vea did to a steak during his recruiting.
There was a steak story in there, and my favorite one, not to give it away entirely, but Vita is 6'3", 350, 6'4", 350. Is that right?
Well, you edited that story. I'm a little disappointed.
Well, there's lots of numbers, a lot of numbers that came through.
Right.
I think I'm in the ballpark.
Right, 6'4", 347, and he's trimmed down.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you detailed that one of the more amazing things he did last year was he had a tackle on punt coverage?
Yes. It was a Wildcat quarterback at Milpitas High just for one game, but he was actually a pretty good running back. And if you go just to YouTube and search for his high school highlights, it's actually pretty crazy. He's wearing number 88, and he actually has moves. I mean, he was not a bulldozer. He had some nice jump cuts and stiff arms against guys that were in high school, but they looked like they were in Pee Wee compared to him. So, did I mention that was that's in the Chronicle?
That was
today.
in the Chronicle.
Yeah.
Today's Chronicle.
Right.
Okay, we'll make sure we get that. Right?
I wrote that story on Vita Vea.
Very good. Very good. All right, number 14. The pick is Green Bay's. 3 words sum up Green Bay last year. Aaron Rodgers' injury. Broken collarbone in week 6 ended his season, and the Packers, assuming he's fully recovered, the offense should be in good hands, although we won't have Jordy Nelson to throw to, who's now back here. Not back here. He's here with the Raiders. Everybody's coming to the Raiders. That puts the shaky defense in our spotlight. Last year, the Packers were 26th in scoring defense, and we're one of only 4 teams to allow at least 30 passing touchdowns. Now, the last time the Packers, traditionally a good team, traditionally a powerhouse, the last time they picked this high in the draft was 2009 when they took B.J. Raji. Not a bad pick with the number 9 pick. So with number 14, they go with?
The Packers are aware of that passing touchdown stat, and they go defensive back. Now, I have here at 14 Mike Hughes, the cornerback from UCF. He's talented. He can also double as a return man. He returned punts and kickoffs in college. There is the caveat that there have been some questions raised about potential character concerns with him. So Hughes could fall. It was an incident that led to him transferring from, I believe, North Carolina, UNC to UCF. Okay. So there is that possibility that he could drop down some boards, and Green Bay could look at different defensive backs. But right now we're going Mike Hughes at 14.
All right, very good.
Hey, Matt, you did your homework on Mike Hughes.
I did my due diligence on Mike Hughes.
You did a deep dive on his background, and you felt comfortable with the pick.
I did, but there are many voices in the draft room on draft day, so
it's a democracy.
Our board is in flux.
It's a democracy. Okay. The board is in flux. Nice. At number 15, a team with a winning record, the Arizona Cardinals. Last year, yes, I play fantasy football. I finished second last year. Thank you very much. And the top pick in an awful lot of leagues was David Johnson. He was going to be the big guy. He was going to put up a ridiculous amount of yards, and then he goes out and he gets hurt. The Cardinal season kind of fell apart a little bit at that, but they do still have Larry Fitzgerald. This guy may never stop. And you talk about Tom Brady playing forever. I get the feeling Larry Fitz can. 109 catches last year, tied a career high. On defense, on roster-wise, they've let a couple of big names go, surprisingly. Tyrann Mathieu is gone, and then former Raider Jared Valdir is gone. So how do you help Arizona, Eric?
Well, I would have loved to take a quarterback again, but I just
Are there any left?
Right, it was a little too early for Mason Rudolph. But to tease that, where Mason, we'll get to you. Yeah. We'll get to you, Mason. Don't worry, you're a first rounder. Yes, you mentioned the Honey Badger, Matthew no longer being there, and the Cardinals are just celebrating right now because they have possibly one of the best pure football players in the draft dropping to them at number 15, and of course, those following along know I'm talking about Florida State safety Derwin James.
No one else it could have been, right?
Right. So a lot of people say this mock draft's stupid. How could he be at 15? But look, you really can't argue with our first 14 picks.
No argument in the room, I don't think. I don't see anybody arguing the point.
I'd argue with that argument.
Number 16, the Baltimore Ravens. The 49ers, you may well remember, played a game against the Ravens, a rather significant game several years ago, and the inability of the Niners to complete a pass to Michael Crabtree is the reason that Joe Flacco has a ring and a rather large contract. If Flacco's to get ring number 2 this year, it's probably going to be because he and Crabtree have hooked up. Michael left the Raiders after last season. He's now a Raven. But my question is, who plays Amari Cooper to Crabtree on the Ravens this season? Or is it time, I know we've had a run on quarterbacks, is it time to start looking for Flacco's replacement?
Not in this case. Still no on the quarterbacks. The Ravens did have the 29th ranked pass offense in the league last year, and they've totally overhauled their receiver core this offseason, including bringing in Crabtree. I'll say they go with the top receiver in the draft, Alabama's Calvin Ridley, and they just complete that makeover. Ridley comes in, he can start opposite Crabtree or
nice. Yeah. That's first wide receiver. We've had 5 quarterbacks go. Apparently everybody's okay with who they're throwing to. That's the first, in this mock draft anyway, the first wide receiver we've taken off the board.
As Matt and I know, it's just not a great, strong.
Yeah, not the deepest tier class
right.
for wide receivers.
No argument.
By our individual.
Right. After talking to hundreds of executives.
And hours of research, right?
Yes.
Okay. Watched a lot of film.
Yeah,
and Matt, if I could just, as an aside, ask you, is it true that Jordy Nelson has already said more words to reporters than Michael Crabtree did all of last year?
I can confirm.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
And that number would be 20?
Yeah, it's not high. But
Michael was not known to talk
he's
too much.
not the most
Rick.
effusive.
No, not at all. Not at all. Good luck in Baltimore, Mike. Number 17, the L.A. Chargers. The return to L.A. Brought mixed results. They had 9 wins, which was equal to what they had won in 2015 and 16 combined. But they've now gone without reaching the playoffs for 4 years. Phillip Rivers topped 4,000 yards for the 5th consecutive year. So the offense is okay. The defense improved dramatically. It went from 29th in points allowed to 3rd last season. But perhaps they should bring in more help for Joey Bosa. What say you?
Well, we talked about Tremaine Edmonds, neat kid, and we wanted to find him a nice landing spot. So that's what we've done here. So the Chargers, yeah, they're great on the edges. Excuse me, with Melvin Ingram and Bosa, but they need some help on the inside there. And Tremaine Edmonds, as mentioned, when he's drafted, he's going to be 19. He'll turn 20 shortly thereafter. But he's what we like to call in the mock draft community a big upside guy.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's at the top of his draft profile too. Is Tremaine Edmonds, neat kid.
Right,
neat kid.
Yeah. Congratulations, Los Angeles. You're gonna love the heck out of him.
You're gonna like this kid, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. There you go. Number 18, Seattle Seahawks, the 49ers nemesis. Richard Sherman, gone. Jeremy Lane, gone. Michael Bennett, traded. Dante Johnson moves from the 49ers, goes up the coast, as did Sebastian Janikowski, who, despite being big enough to play defense, probably will be not be asked to do so this year.
Same.
Seattle had the best scoring defense for 4 straight years and was 3rd in 2016 before dropping to 13th last year. Can the Legion of Boom be resurrected?
Well, Eric mentioned Marcus Davenport earlier, defensive end out of Texas San Antonio. And we'll say he goes to Seattle. He's an interesting guy. When he left high school, he weighed 198 pounds, part of the reason that he ended up at Texas San Antonio. He's bulked up a lot. He's supposed to be very athletic in addition to be stronger now. I think he's up around 260, 270. And now he gets to go chase Jimmy Garoppolo twice a year.
Nice.
Yeah.
No one touches Jimmy.
Yeah.
That's in the contract.
No one beats Jimmy. Sometimes they touch him, but never beat Jimmy.
Very good. At number 19, how about them Cowboys? Ezekiel Elliott, we assume, back in the fold for the full season. His off-field suspension issues are gone, but Des Bryant is gone. Let go on Friday the 13th, a couple weeks ago. Dak Prescott might want another target to throw to, but somebody on defense needs to be able to catch the ball as well. The Cowboys had 10 interceptions last year. Not a good number with the 19th pick, Eric.
Jerry Jones says we need skill position players. He's not into that defensive stuff. And his voice still resonates there, even though it's wisely trying to be muffled by some of his relatives. But anyway, this is a man who, was kind of in a weeks-long depression after he couldn't draft Johnny Manziel. And he will not be denied a receiver to replace Des Bryant. So he goes with SMU wideout Cortland Sutton.
All right. Who can bring his fan club from SMU to Dallas. It's a short drive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's just a perfect marriage on many levels.
Anyway, it works out perfectly, wonderfully. All right. Number 20, rounding out the top 20, the Detroit Lions, who have not won a playoff game since 1991. But it's not Matthew Stafford's fault. He's 7 straight seasons with at least 4,200 yards, and that puts the spotlight then on the defense, which is anchored by Ziggy Ansah, whose 12-sack season last year got him, I believe, the franchise tag, second mention of the franchise tag today,
Right.
and $17 million to play one season. I'm not sharp on math. 16 games, 17 mil, that's $1 million a week plus. Who's going to help Ziggy?
I'll say Detroit goes and takes Deron Payne, big defensive tackle. New head coach Matt Patricia, who's the former defensive coordinator in New England, goes out and gets a hard-nosed player that can anchor the middle of that line.
Lunch pail guy, just a no frills
puts
pick.
his hard
I
hat
like it.
on
Yeah,
and
Good.
goes to work every day.
exactly
Goes
right.
to work every day.
That'll
As
resonate.
we all do.
Play well in Detroit.
Yeah.
And people appreciate that.
Good fit.
Yeah.
Very good. Number 21, we can keep the comments short here. This is Cincinnati. The pick needs to be on offense. The Bengals, last in total yards, 31st in rushing offense, 27th in passing offense, and 26th in scoring. GM Eric, it's not defense, right?
No. So I'll make another fantasy football reference. I did not finish second in my league, Mike, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Belated
I appreciate that.
congratulations. And part of the reason I did not finish second in my league is because Joe Mixon of the Bengals was one of my starting running backs. And because of that, when my schedule allowed, I would watch Bengals games. And you know what? I came to the conclusion that I was right about Joe Mixon's talent, but that was the worst offensive line possibly in the NFL last year. So what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade that line and help Mixon by drafting Notre Dame offensive tackle Mike McGlinchey.
Nice. Another Notre Damer.
That
Two in
is
the first round.
right. That had to be one. I don't know who else was playing on Notre Dame's offensive line, but Quentin Nelson, Mike McGlinchey. It could have been us three, and I think we could have protected the quarterback.
One side of it.
Well,
Pretty good
yeah,
shape.
one side of them. The other side would have been problematic.
A
Highly
little rough.
exposed.
Right.
A little rough, yeah.
And not just Mixon, but Andy Dalton will be happy with that. I mean, that should be a, as they say, plug him in at left tackle and possibly.
And giving shout outs to local guys. Mixon, of course, is an East Bay guy.
Yeah, that is correct. I obviously went a little crazy with my Mixon fantasy football fall lead up, but Mike McGlinchey.
At number 22 is Buffalo, again with their second first-round pick. Lamar Jackson gone off the board at number 12. So a quarterback position is seemingly set in there in Buffalo. Is this the spot for a lineman? to protect that investment, or do they try to find the next Sammy Watkins so that Lamar, after his year of maturation, has somebody to throw to? Where do you go?
No, I'm going straight need pick here with the Bills. They lost several of their offensive linemen, including their starting center, Eric Wood, who had to retire because of a neck injury. So they draft his replacement. They go with Daniels, the center out of Iowa.
All right. Very good. Very good. Number 23, and I have to admit I was surprised to see this team at number 23, the New England Patriots. Tom Brady will be 41 when this season starts, but it doesn't matter. He threw more passes last year for more yards than anybody in the league. Gronkowski flirted with retirement. I believe this week he made official he is going to come back. Another weapon for Brady, protection for him, a replacement for Super Bowl snub Malcolm Butler. Where do you go?
Well, they lost Nate Solder to the Giants, who got a massive contract. And obviously, anytime you have a 40-plus-year-old quarterback, that doesn't happen often, but you want to make sure he doesn't get touched a lot. So we're going to go with Texas offensive tackle Connor Williams to address that need. I've seen it. A lot of people say, well, maybe he's better suited to guard in the NFL. No, our evaluators say he's going to be an offensive tackle. Okay? So Connor Williams, I've seen Colton Miller of UCLA kept going to the Patriots, and I just said, you know what? I am going to buck this trend. This mock draft is going to be quite unique.
Too soon for Connor to start getting size for a ring?
Well, I mean, even if he doesn't contribute, he's on the Patriots, so he's got a decent chance.
All right. Number 24, Carolina Panthers. The NFL's roller coaster team. In order: 7 wins, 12 wins, 7 wins, 15 wins, 6 wins, then 11 wins. Would make you think they're going to go down this year.
Yeah, they're going to have a terrible year.
They're going to have a terrible year?
Yeah.
You predicted it, all right? All right.
No,
Wow.
I think that
It's
the proof
math.
is
It's just
evidence.
math.
It's just math. You just follow the trend, right?
Yeah, evidence is pretty convincing.
They thought they had solved their defensive issues. They had signed Bashad Breeland from Washington, and then it turns out he had a foot injury, failed the team physical, the 3-year deal out the window, it's gone. Sorry, we got to move on. So what's plan B if Breeland is gone?
Plan B would be their draft pick. And this is a guy who, if Hughes, who we had at 14, if Mike Hughes falls, this guy could go earlier, but we're going Josh Jackson, cornerback out of Iowa, who's he's got some size, and he's also a converted receiver, and he had a lot of interceptions last year, so he steps in immediately, and he's kind of a ball hawk out there.
Another Iowa man.
Another.
There we go. Number 25, Tennessee. Good times for Tennessee. This is the first time since 2009 that they've picked outside the top 20 when they took Kenny Britt. Not a bad pick. Coming off a division round playoff loss to the Patriots, and seem to have their offensive house in order with Marcus Mariota at quarterback, Derrick Henry at running back. So do you add on there or help on defense?
We're going to help on defense.
Okay.
Penn State used to be linebacker U, and obviously they still feel that's the case. But Alabama has been producing plenty of very quality first-round linebackers. Obviously, 49ers know about Reuben Foster, your C.J. Mosleys, your Reggie Raglins, and now we got Rashawn Evans, who is going to be going to Tennessee.
Very good.
The pick is inside linebacker Rashawn Evans, Tennessee Titans.
You agree?
Sounds great. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Must not have been on Matt's board. All right. Number 20. Number 26, the Atlanta Falcons. 2 years ago, they had offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan. Went to the Super Bowl. Folks in Atlanta don't want to talk about that second half, but getting to the Super Bowl, not bad. Last season, he comes out here. The Atlanta offense plummets to 15th, and they lose to the Eagles in the divisional round. So is it time? I know we speak about Brady being 40, 41. Matt Ryan is 33. Seems like he's been there even longer than that. Do you get a backup for him, another quarterback, or do you improve the defense, which was 27th in points allowed last year?
Definitely going with the defense for this
Okay.
one. The Falcons, last year they had Dontari Poe anchoring the middle of their defensive line. He left in free agency, so they go out and get a defensive tackle in Taven Bryan from Florida.
Very good. And I want to amend my statement. It was they've been 27th 3 of the last 5 seasons.
I was wondering
So
about that.
Did you
yeah,
have that?
Yeah.
I appreciate you not calling me on the carpet right away.
Right.
It did, yeah.
And-
Made up
and Matt-
stats.
Yeah.
And Matt, you like your interior offensive and defensive.
I know it's not the sexy pick. But
Right.
Those are the guys who are going to come in and help immediately.
Yeah, you know where these games are won.
Help out in the trenches.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard, yes.
Yeah, listen up, Jerry Jones.
That's right.
Yeah.
Number 27 is the New Orleans Saints, which led by the defense improved from 31 to 10th last year. The Saints came out of the wilderness to win 11 games after 3 straight 7-win seasons. Ingram and Kamara rushed for 1,850 yards combined, had 20 touchdowns. Michael Thomas, 92 catch season, followed by 104 in his sophomore season. So if Peyton is comfortable with the defense, does he start? Again, we're getting older quarterbacks at quite a few spots. Does he start looking for somebody to replace Breeze, or does he give him another toy to play with?
The latter.
The latter,
I
okay.
mean, Drew can't play forever, and right now you'd be hard-pressed to name another wide receiver besides Michael Thomas. Obviously, Niner fans would pipe right up and say Ted Ginn
There you
Jr.
go.
However, he really, I mean, obviously, as mentioned, the backfield is pretty stacked, but he doesn't have a whole lot of targets, and we're going to get a little some of that double coverage away from Michael Thomas by taking Christian Kirk, wide receiver, Texas A&M.
Very good. More fun for Drew Brees.
Yeah, I'm kind of, with these, I want the offensive toys. And as noted, Matt, to his credit, is just like, hey, let's get us some football players. Let's.
Look at the big guys.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, number 28. Speaking of offense, Steelers, 13-3 last year. They have enough offense for 2 teams. Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Juju Smith-Schuster, Martavis Bryant, Jesse James. I'm not a betting man, aside from fantasy football. But this has got to...
And you finished second last year.
And I finished second, but I reached our Super Bowl.
Nice.
This has got to be a defensive pick, right?
It is a defensive pick.
Okay.
I'll say the Steelers go with Leighton Vander Esch, the linebacker from Boise State, who's just sounds like an interesting guy. Grew up in a town of Riggins, Idaho, which is population about 400. He's an avid outdoorsman, hunting, fishing, kayaking, which all just sounds very Steelersy. So fit right in.
Probably have a long beard too.
Yeah, I don't think he has a beard. I
No?
believe he's clean shaven from pictures that I've seen.
Give him time.
Yeah,
Give
well,
him
there's
time.
possibilities.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
but yeah, Vander Esch.
All right.
There are possibilities about potential injury concerns or maybe something lingering that could drop him down. But we'll say the Steelers look beyond that and get a guy who can come in and maybe replace Ryan Shazier, who's still out.
Yes. Best wishes on a recovery for him.
Indeed.
Jacksonville at number 29. 29 and Jacksonville don't normally match. This is the latest they've ever picked, and that's what happens when you come within a touchdown of going to the Super Bowl. Paul Posluszny called it a career last year. He's gone. So this might be a team in need, or that might be a need on this team. Jags were 6th in offense, 2nd in defense. So you kind of got your choice. Which way you going, Eric?
We've heard so many times through the years you can't replace Mercedes Lewis, right?
Yes.
Well, you can
Okay.
because they're going to go with South Carolina tight end Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst is.
Hayden Hurst.
You heard it here first.
I did.
And I didn't mean to do that, but yes, Hayden Hurst going to give Blake Bortles a little offensive weapon.
You replace a Mercedes with a Hayden.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Which is, I think Tesla's making those.
There you go. Number 30, the Minnesota Vikings. When last we saw them, they were NFC runner-up. They had Case Keenum, had Sam Bradford and Teddy Bridgewater on their roster. All of them are gone. Now they got Kirk Cousins, who hopes that Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, and Kyle Rudolph will help him live up to the largest per-year contract in NFL history. Kirk Cousins will make $28 million each of the next 3 years. Poor guy.
It's not bad.
Where do you go?
Where you can get it. It's been way too long since I took a lineman. So going offensive line here, we're going to go guard Isaiah Wynn, who played some tackle in college, but NFL analysts think he'll shift inside to play guard. The Vikings could use maybe help along the line, and like you said, is a little bit more protection insurance for that investment.
For that big investment.
Yeah.
Number 31, a position they're used to picking in, the New England Patriots. My question is, does the draft even matter to Bill Belichick anymore? Last year, no picks in the first 2 rounds. They go to the Super Bowl. 2 years ago, no picks in the first round. They win the Super Bowl. So he's back in the first round twice. And at number 31, he picks.
Well, those who hung in with us this long, remember that I referenced Mason Rudolph.
Yes.
That he would be picked in this mock draft. And guess what, folks?
Drum roll, please.
Guess what?
Drum roll, please.
Mason Rudolph is the new backup quarterback for the New England Patriots. Sorry about that, Brian Hoyer.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say, well, Patriots are so smart. Why they'll probably just trade up and actually get a quarterback. And Mason Rudolph's like the 5th or 6th best. Why would they want him to replace Tom Brady? Well, might I remind you, in 2014, not many people were talking about one Jimmy Garoppolo as one of the best quarterbacks in that draft. So
look at his winning percentage now.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So check back with me in 2021 when Mason Rudolph will be traded
to the 49ers
for a 2nd-round pick. Okay.
Very good. At this point, though, I'm officially designating Mason Rudolph Captain Clipboard.
Well, yes, until he's traded for a 2nd-round pick because 44-year-old Tom Brady just won his 8th Super Bowl or something.
Very good. Very good.
He eats really well.
Oh, he does.
I've heard
Yes.
Drinks a lot of water.
Yeah, and again, let me plug our SF Chronicle website and paper again. This mock draft will be coming out in a different form in the newspaper tomorrow. And I'm not going to give it away here, but just a hilarious comment about Tom Brady and avocado ice cream.
That's true. I've edited it already, and I left it in there.
Oh, yeah. It's worth the price of that.
And there's something about rabbits.
Rarely been made too.
Something about rabbits from young Mr. Kawahara as well.
Oh, yeah. He was not to be outdone.
There we go. All right. At number 32, the last draft pick of the first round, the Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. Their biggest question seems to be whether Carson Wentz is fully recovered from the ACL that blew up, I believe, against the Rams in a game in December, or whether Nick Foles' Magical Mystery Tour gets another trip. Jay Ajayi started only one of the 7 games after he was traded. He's number 1 back now. LeGarrette Blount is gone. The team's top 5 pass catchers had 250 catches and 32 touchdowns. For the Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, you go with?
Closing out the first round, they're going to go running back. They got LSU's Darius Geis. He can come in and platoon with Jay Ajayi for next season, and then there's the possibility Ajayi leaves in free agency and Geis takes over full time in 2019.
Very good.
So that's the first skill position player you took, right?
I took Barkley, number 2. Yeah, closing it out with their back too. So.
There's skill with the big guys on the line.
I like to mix it up a little.
Exactly. Sorry, big fellas.
All right, that's the end of our mock draft. Looking over the picks, one thing is crystal clear: the NFL remains a passing league. Eric and Matt combined to take 6 quarterbacks, 3 wide receivers, and a tight end. I'm old enough to remember when the running back mattered in this draft. In 32 picks, we had 2 taken. Saquon Barkley at number 2, and just now, Mr. Geis with the Eagles at number 32. I want to thank Matt and Eric for their work. Exhaustive hours of research over weeks, if not days or hours.
Totally worth it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, the real first round begins Thursday night, tomorrow night, at 5 o'clock. The 2nd and 3rd rounds of the draft are Friday, and rounds 4 through 7 are on Saturday. That's it for now. Thanks, guys. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot.